Good afternoon. My name is Darия Mельничук and I represent Netішin academic lyceum. The topic of our research is structural and semantic peculiarities of Ukrainian borrowings in English. Since ancient civilizations, any language has been and will continue to be the roadmap of culture. That's why I'd like to start my presentation with the words of the famous American poet Ralph Waldo Emerson. Language is the archives of history. Thus, the object of the research is various borrowings in English and Ukrainian ones in particular. The subject is the semantic transformations and structural types of the borrowings in the course of their usage. The novelty of the work is explained by the necessity of the more detailed research of questions concerning Ukrainian borrowings, which have penetrated into English. We have set concrete tasks to obtain the goal of our research. To study the territorial background and fundamental factors which influence the intensity of the borrowing process. To highlight the major sources of borrowings and their criteria of assimilation in English. To reveal historical and social conditions of entering Ukrainian words into the English language. To determine the main semantic groups of Ukrainian borrowings. And finally, to specify the structural peculiarities of the loan words in Marina Levitska's best-selling debut novel, A Short History of Structures in Ukrainian. First, we discuss the general detail about the borrowing process. In our research, we reveal that more than two-thirds of the English vocabulary are borrowings. The Roman invasion, the adoption of Christianity, Scandinavian and Norman conquest of the British Isles, the development of British colonialism, and expanding trade have increased the English vocabulary very much. It should be mentioned that borrowings can be classified according to different criteria, according to the aspect which is borrowed, the degree of assimilation, and the language from which the word was borrowed. Moreover, we like to emphasize that the borrowed aspect contains phonetic, morphemic, and semantic borrowings. As for the degree of assimilation, borrowings are subdivided into completely assimilated, partly assimilated, non-assimilated. But most of all, we are interested in the classification of borrowings according to the language from which they are borrowed. The first words of Romanic origin borrowed from Latin were during the period when the British Isles became a part of the Roman Empire in the 1st century AD. Many Latin words also came into English during the adoption of Christianity in the 6th century. By the way, on this slide you can see two Latin abbreviations. E.g. stands for example gratia and means for example. AD is the Latin abbreviation for Anno Domini, which means in the year of your Lord. The second wave of Latin borrowings appeared in English during the Great Revival of learning in the 14th, 15th centuries. These are mostly scientific words because Latin was the language of science at the time. Some of them were partly assimilated grammatically. The second largest group of borrowings are French ones. After the Norman conquest in 1066, England became a bilingual country. For about 3 centuries, Norman French was the official language in Britain. We'd like to highlight the most important semantic groups of French borrowings. Words relating to government, military affairs, jewelry, fashion, jewelry, food and cooking, literature and music, and finally words relating to buildings and furniture. The age of the Renaissance, 14th-17th century, had a great impact on the European culture, and England wasn't an exception. Many borrowings from Italian refer to trade and military affairs, but mostly Italian is famous by its influence in art. Spanish borrowings came into English in the 16th century. There are the following semantic groups of them: trade terms, name of dances and musical instruments, and the names of vegetables and fruit. Then our research focuses on the Ukrainian borrowings in English. We have analyzed the historical background of the borrowing process. Being under the pressure of the Russian Empire until the beginning of the 20th century, Ukrainian did give a lot of words English. We can divide Ukrainian borrowings into the following semantic groups: household words, words relating to food and cooking, words connected with history, words connected with politics and economics. All examples from these groups are represented on the slide. There are two main waves of adaptation and assimilation of Ukrainian borrowings. The first one is a calque. It's actually a word or phrase borrowed from another language by literal word-for-word translation, for example, Orange Revolution, cassette scandal. The second one is the transcription. In the process of transcription, the visual representation of speech sounds is transferred. For instance, Euromaidan to Yutishki. The next part of our research focuses on Marina Levitska's best-selling debut novel, A Short History of Tractors in Ukrainian. Levitska was born in the family of Ukrainian immigrants after the Second World War. Being published in 2005, the novel has won many awards and has sold over 1 million copies worldwide. Moreover, it has been translated into 35 languages. A Short History of Tractors in Ukrainian begins as Vera and Nadezhda's wide father. A Ukrainian immigrant, Nikolai announces his intention to marry Valentina, a glamorous Ukrainian bombshell and with superior breasts and a genius son. Nicola says she is coming with her son from Ukraine, Ternopil in Ukraine. His two feuding daughters realize they must unite to free their father from the clutches of Valentina, who is 50 years younger than their dad. Vera and Nadezhda often recollect their childhood and mother's kotletki, halushki, and Christmas fat bird stuffed with garlic and kasha. Besides, Marina Levitska vividly describes Vera and Nadezhda's Ukrainian ancestors as hardworking and hard-drinking Cossacks. Meanwhile, fired up by passion, Nicola is writing his own eccentric contribution to human knowledge, a history of tractors through which Levitska shows us social and political events that shaped the last century. War, peace, repression, famine, ecological disaster. Levitska reminds us of the difficult choices that immigrants must make between what to remember and what to forget about their past. Look at this slide. These quotations represent the tragic history of Ukraine in this moving family drama. Thus, on the ground of given facts, we have come to the following conclusions. The continuous evolution of vocabulary is the process which reflects the development of society. Borrowings enter the language to describe a new notion, to find the most exact and most expressive definition, to create the image, to escape tautology, to evaluate, and to characterize. Ukrainian borrowings, mostly used by a significant diaspora population in the USA, Canada, and Great Britain, aren't simply the result of the need to name a new reality, but also the expression of subtle tones of individual attitudes and feelings. Thus, I believe that my goals have been fully achieved, and let me close by quoting Theodor Adorno, a German philosopher. History doesn't merely touch on language, but takes place in it.